Howdy ho, everybody. What?
Nothing.
Should I try a different?
Don't, you gotta look at the camera.
One? Should I try a different one?
Yeah. How about Happy New Year?
Happy New Year. Good evening, everybody.
I will watch the comments.
Leah's gonna watch the comments. I've still got to get on and like and share and all that stuff, just like you should.
Oh, I gotta swipe left.
Swipe left. What are you doing over there?
Swiping. Swiper, no swiping.
This also gives other people an opportunity to hop on.
Happy New Year.
I just got a notification. Paranormal Help went live. I've liked and shared.
Jack says to the left, everything you own in a box to the left.
Am I too far to the left? Do I need to move?
Oh, you're fine.
Move one way or the other. All right.
Jack says hi, Santa.
Yeah, you've already cut yours off though. I don't know. I still haven't decided what I'm gonna do with mine. May thin it out. May leave the link. I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of enjoying it. Anyway, so let me go ahead and kind of start out with a disclaimer. Our area right now is currently under a tornado watch until 3 a.m. And there is the potential for some warnings. Storms in the area are really, really bad right now. So far, so good. We haven't seen anything yet, but
It's coming this way.
it is on its way. So I am going to try to make this live brief.
Hi, Tanya.
We'll stick on as long as we can, but if something happens, if an alert happens or whatever, and we've got to get offline, we're going to do that. So
Jack says lunch on the 8th with Santa's. You're still invited.
the 8th. Yes. Okay, cool. He wants me to come to the Tri-State Santa Luncheon. Was all the Santas. All right, so Happy New Year. It is January 1st, which is the first day of the new year. I know I typically look at what the national day is, but I'm not really cool with what the national days are today, so I don't know if I want to share them. I'll share one. It's National Hangover Day.
Like the movie? Hangover?
Maybe, because the other one is National Bloody Mary Day. But is that the game? Or is it the drink? Either way. And it's also National Play Outside Day, which if you're in Tennessee, then that makes perfect sense because it's 70 degrees in January and December anyway. But we're supposed to get an Arctic blast after all this stormage that's coming our way. So anyway.
We'll find out.
Yeah, so I'm going to just go ahead and jump right into this. Please feel free. This is kind of I know we're not going to have a whole lot of time, but this is an interactive topic. It is a theoretical topic. Something that was actually shared with me from a coworker, Dave, if you happen to catch this video, thank you. So I'm going to read a story to start out, very short story. This comes, yes?
Today's the 9th anniversary of my dad's passing, so happy feast day of Doc Haynes.
I like that better than what we had, so definitely we'll do that. Okay, so this story actually comes from, to credit behind it, it comes from Coast to Coast AM, if anybody's familiar with that show.
Coast to Coast.
Yes, formerly Art Bell, now George Norrie. Interesting show, I listen to it sometimes. But like I said, this was shared with me with a coworker, or from a coworker. it's being told from perspective. This guy, his grandparents built this house. It says, one day Grandma was watching Jeopardy, and in walk 3 shadowy figures into the living room. They turn and look at her and turn and run out of the room. Now, Grandma's house is effectively haunted at this point, and the story's passed down. Well, one day Grandma passes away, and a few years later, his friends walk into the living room, and lo and behold, there in Grandma's chair is the visage of Grandma, appearing to be watching TV. She looks up and notices them. They freak out, turn around, and run out of the room. And at that moment, who is haunting who? Was Grandma seeing a flash from the future, or were they seeing a flash from the past?
Dum, dum, dum.
I know, interesting concept here. So, Grandma sees 3 shadow figures, and then after Grandma passes away, 3 people walk into the house and they see Grandma. So,
it's like a multiverse.
it is kind of like a multiverse.
Oh no.
We did just see the new SpiderMan movie. No spoilers, but it's really good. So, what was experienced here is the question. I've got a couple of theories. Did a little bit of research on this, because depending upon what your belief system is, or how you want to apply what you want to apply to this, it could be several different things. There have been multiple examples throughout history of what I call living ghosts. And it's where the spirit of someone who is alive is seen even though they're still alive. Several different examples usually come from someone that's on their deathbed will come visit somebody while they're still alive to kind of pass on, joy and love to them. People that have seen like the spirit of a loved one to give them a warning about something, even when that loved one was still alive. So several different examples of that. I pulled one I thought was kind of interesting. 1906 was the date on this. Reverend H.W. Withrow, his spirit appeared to a group doing a seance in Melbourne, Australia. He had written a book about 30 years prior to this about Egypt, and the people in Melbourne, Australia just thought he was the expert on Egypt because a large number of books on that subject had been sent in that area. So a lot of people in the area knew who he was, and they were, big fans of his. So his spirit appears during this seance.
Padre Pio was known to be seen in 2 places at the same time by location.
Padre Pio was actually something I looked into. So yeah, and I've heard that story before too. Where was I? Sorry. So the spirit appears in this seance. Spirit starts quoting several things from his book. Withrow was known for a book that he'd written on the Rome catacombs. So he makes all these quotations out of the book. He goes on to state that he was a member of the established Church of England. And then he began to berate said church, saying that the church was nothing but a valley of dry bones. The interesting part of this is while all this is taking place, Reverend Withrow is still sitting at home in Toronto, Canada, writing books. He was not a member of the Church of England. He was very well known in that area as a
Dobby sighting.
He was a member of the Methodist Church. He used to write for the Methodist Church magazine. And whenever he quoted his book on the catacombs of Rome, he misquoted it. He said several things that he had never said, or the Spirit said several things that he had never said. The reason why I draw attention to that is we've got the guy is alive and this spirit appears that looks like him, and it tells a lot of untruth. It talks about, it berates this church that he's not even a part of. It misquotes the book. Where I'm trying to go with this is the Bible states that Satan is the father of lies. You get into John 8:44, and Jesus refers to that. My opinion there is that it was a evil spirit just trying to stir up stuff, which kind of gets into the next thing that Leah and I have talked about, and I kind of want Leah to weigh in on this, is we call it, and I'm not sure what the actual term in the paranormal is, but Leah and I refer to it as the mimic.
Oh, yeah.
Several occasions we have been witness to activity where we've seen, Leah has seen me and it's not me. Or I've heard Leah speak to me and it wasn't Leah.
I wasn't around,
right.
In other words.
So that's kind of what Reverend Witherow's story kind of made me think that is, I mean, he's alive, but this spirit makes an appearance in a seance and the things that it's saying are not true. So I feel like this was an example of a mimicking spirit. Can you think of an example of one of the investigations we went on where we dealt with that? I know we dealt with it at Hell's Bar a couple of times.
I know I can't pinpoint where we were or whatever, but I do recall an instance of where we were, it was us and others, and we were moving through a house. I'm thinking we were moving through the house and we saw one of the other people in our group like go into another room or whatever, and we, you know, you kind of look around, you're missing that person, and you're like, oh, well, I saw them go into such and such room or that other room, and then they're not there.
Right.
They weren't even in the building. I don't know. We've had several instances. I remember one, we were in a house, but I couldn't tell you which house. And then I know, yeah, when we've been at Hell's Bar, and even when we were at South Pittsburgh.
That's right.
In the very beginning.
Yeah. I felt like we ran into it at Etowah, but we ran into so much at Etowah, it's hard to.
It seems like that's, yeah. Yep. And just a little disclaimer here, I'm noticing on our lag that he freezes every now and then. You know, again, that's probably the storm. There's not really much we can do about it.
Right.
It's going to intensify as the time goes on. So if you see it freeze or whatever, just be patient.
And again, that's the reason why I'm trying to hurry through this. I normally would spend a little bit.
Don't hurry. I mean, we'll just go till we can no longer. But yeah, I recall instances throughout, and it seems like that happened when we were at Patton Chapel too, or am I wrong? If there was something.
I said I somewhere on that campus. I don't know about specifically Patton Chapel.
Okay.
The thing
when we were in the inside.
The thing that stands out about Patton Chapel, I know we're veering off here, was the whatever it was that slammed the pew behind you when I asked it to show itself.
Well, that's not this instance of what you're talking about, like a mimic.
Right. I just remember that just what stands out at that time.
Well, what I remember is what I saw in the little area that will lead you up to the bell tower, of that having the hearse carriages, and I still remember that vividly. And then also the monk type individual. But yeah, anyway, we're veering off.
No. I didn't put it, this also brings to mind, where was it? I think it was in Livingston where we, it was
dividing you guys, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was trying to lead one group. It was splitting you guys up.
Yeah. And what was coming to mind about that was we had a member of our team that had tried to cast in his belief system, he was trying to do some sort of protection.
Another team.
Yeah, and he created what somebody called it a golem, not like golem, I'm saying it wrong. Golem is the thing from Lord of the Rings. but he allegedly created something like that. But another member of that team that had the ability to sense things said that he saw what looked like this guy standing at the doorway trying to keep people from coming in, which is not exactly the same thing. I mean, again, I think that kind of falls into that conjured, not apparition, but...
Well, also along the... Nick says, my precious.
Yeah, Dobby.
Sorry, we got to have a Dobby sighting. Is the time that I was at your home alone, and I kept getting these really intense, vivid images of your roommate harming me, and it was clearly your roommate.
Right.
And
I think I've told the story before. My roommate,
probably.
Just to catch anybody up that's watching, my roommate right before Lee and I got married was a practicing druid, and no disrespect to that. I mean, it's his belief system, but evidently there were things that he was doing in my house that I was unaware of.
Hi, Jennifer.
As far as his practicing skills, he was conjuring things, and he had conjured something to protect the house, and it would...
It's familiars.
It would, familiars was the terminology he used, and they were going to be turned loose on anybody that came in the home that was not myself or him, or were not accompanied by myself or him coming into the home. And she had come in, she was in the house by herself. So, yeah.
So, I mean, it mimicked.
Right.
I mean, I know this is kind of a little different than what you were talking about, but I mean, it mimicked.
Right.
Like, it wasn't something else. It was, his face and aggression I felt.
No, I mean, the theory, so I've got two different theories. They're going back to Grandma's story. The two theories I'm laying out here, they're both, I mean, like I said, they're very theological, and they're very, very way out there. I mean, I'm speaking from the context that, we've said before, we don't believe that when people die, they linger. They go on to glory or, their punishment. So, what did Grandma see? She sees three figures. All she saw was the shadowy figures, but when we go to the end, the three figures saw Grandma. So did they see Grandma? We don't think so. So what were they seeing? Is it possible that it was something mimicking Grandma? And, even if we go back to the three figures that she saw, was that these three figures a mimic of his friends? We don't have whether she gave any recognition of them. It was just three shadows. So there's a lot to take in here. It's a little deep.
Right. I understand this whole time thing you're delving into.
Right.
But it seemed what would perhaps be more plausible is the grandma was being mimicked because it was of the past.
Yeah. So, to that, I also wanted to add in about the Reverend Withrow story. 1 John 4:1, Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God, for many false prophets have gone out into the world. I mean, I think we see a lot of that nowadays because, like we've talked about in the past, whenever, someone states, a medium or whatever states they've seen someone's, loved one, there's either stuff that's given that's already known about or facts that are not quite entirely true. So that's why, and I've quoted it many times, the witch of Endor that Saul consulted in the Bible said it looked like Samuel, but it wasn't really Samuel. So, all right. I know this is a lot of depth there. Anybody got any questions or any comments in the chat before I move to the next theory?
And even if he moves past something, I mean, still post.
Right.
We don't care to go back and This is interactive.
Yep.
Or even thoughts, what do
Yeah.
what do you guys think?
All right, so this next one is especially so to make a joke out of this, considering the movie that Leah and I just watched in theaters. Like I said, we went to go see SpiderMan, No Way Home. There is a lot of multiverse, multi-universal stuff talking. So this has gone from kind of the spiritual aspect. Now we're going to get into some science. So this next theory states that time is not linear, and that everything in history is all happening at one time and at the same time. So all of history, everything in existence is happening right now. So I've heard preachers make the statement, the same God that's talking to you right now is standing there giving the 10 Commandments to Moses, or is, talking to Jesus, or doing this, that, and the other. So, I mean, when you think about that, it's like, okay. And I tried to go, before I go into the actual definition of this, I tried to go in the Bible and try to find some information to back this up, as I do with everything. But I really couldn't. So, I mean, with it being a scientific theory, true science will not, what's the word I'm looking for here? True science doesn't contradict the Bible doesn't contradict true science, but I couldn't find anything really that fell in line with this. But
that would really suck, because that means that all of our bad experiences that we live is just in a replay over and over, and it's continually going on.
Yeah. So let me read you the theory.
How terrible.
So this is called block universe theory, or eternalism. According to block universe, the universe is a giant block of all things that ever happen any time and any place. On this view, past, present, and future all exist and are all equally real. So what we consider time to be a straight line, where here's where we're born, or here's the beginning, and here's the end. Here's where we're born, here's where we die, and everything that we do happens in between. Block universe theory, imagine a rectangle with 3 dimensions, and everything in time is inside that box, and it's all happening at one time. Instead of it being linear, everything happens at the same time. So what I would consider, I was eating dinner, or I wouldn't even call it dinner. We were snacking and watching a movie about 30 minutes ago. To me, that was 30 minutes ago, but according to this theory, that's still happening right now, even while I'm talking about this, because all time's happening at the same time.
Well, then you get into that of residual.
Right. So this theory gets way out there, stating that this is what I had to throw this in. Time travel is possible. But if you were to go to the past, it would actually be someone else's future. And you could manipulate that future because you were always meant to go back to the past.
Well, if that was the case, and we talk about where we've been places where it feels more residual, then, it's just like a movie loop playing.
Right.
Then that would mean, but why does it happen in some places and not all places? You think that if that was a true concept, that it would be happening
all the time,
everywhere.
So the theories on that were that there's certain places or certain events that cause, I hate using this terminology, the thinning of the veil. Mm-hmm. Where, if something happens in a certain place, or there's just certain places on this earth where those things overlap.
Where you can what? I can't see you?
Where people, yeah. Or people that have a certain gifting can be able to see through that. So to go back to the original story, what it's saying is that whenever grandma saw the three beings, she was actually seeing the future when those three Pete guys walked in. And when they walked in the future, they were seeing the past. And it was all happening at one time.
There was a blip in the Matrix.
There could have been. But, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I have...
This sounds very Doctor Who-ish.
It kind of does. It's before Jack says it, wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. Hello, sweetie. But yeah, I mean, it's in that aspect. If we were to look at that, then yes, like everything, like when Christ was crucified on the cross, it's happening right now. You know, whenever Moses received the Ten Commandments, it's happening right now, because all time is relative and it's all happening at once. I don't subscribe to this theory at all, but it's just when you start reading into it, it's just like, wow. You know, like you said, it's kind of depressing when you think about how everything's just all out there. The only thing that I found that even was remotely close to this, and it's not even, Hebrews 13:8, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. But it doesn't mean the same thing. Because I looked at a study that someone had done about whether God existed within time. Is God timeless? Does God exist within our time? And the theory that I read there was, when God's talking about things in the Bible, he puts a time on things. In the beginning, at the end of the age, the first day, the second day. Everything's done in time based on us, but in heaven, there will be no concept of time whenever we're reigning with him.
There is no concept of time.
Correct, because I think God exists outside of it, but God created time.
We've created a concept of time.
Right.
But yeah, his time's not our time.
No. But, I mean, I know that verse seems completely out of context, but I say that because basically God is never changing. There were several theories that I read where people tried to say, well, you know, God never changes. God is the same, you know, today, you know, yesterday, today, and forever. Then, you know, he is the same. So the same God that talks to me now is the same God. Well, what it means is that his character never changes. Not that he, you know, is, I don't know.
How is he not the same?
I didn't say that. I said he is the same.
You said his character, not him.
Not as in like this concept of this block theory of time, where everything's happening at once. Where let me ask you: do you think that if, like right now, if God's speaking to me, he also at the same time is speaking to Moses, given the Ten Commandments right now? That's what I'm saying, then.
I'm confused.
You're confusing me.
You're confusing me. No, because that stuff's already happened. Or else, I mean, or
is it happening right now?
How could our sins be forgiven?
Good point.
What? I mean,
this was a crazy topic.
What's done is done.
Right. But you don't think everything's happening all at once?
Then what's done is not done.
How so?
Because it's continually in perpetual motion.
So you believe time is linear? I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just getting...
No, I whatever terminology you want to use, but I believe, you know, what God has done, what is done is done. Jesus came here to do. I don't believe that he's still dying on the cross.
But if we continue in sin, do not we continue to crucify Jesus?
No.
That's what it says in the Bible.
It's been done. It is finished. Is what he said.
That's where I was getting to. Thank you.
Oh, wait. So Nick says, to me, the past is set in stone and the future is still in flux, in a manner of speaking. Yeah, I completely agree with that. What's done is done.
Yeah, I agree.
And
I 100% agree.
And that also would rule out the concept of when our sins are covered under the blood, that they are forgotten. I mean, if what's in the past is still happening.
If everything is continuing, then it would be a continual remembrance.
Yes.
Because it's continuing. Absolutely.
You can't forget something that's still continually in motion. Or it can't be done, finished.
Right. Because it's continually happening.
Right. You know, say, well, it's in the past. You know, he said, no, it is finished.
Right.
That's finality.
Yeah. Now, this theory, was it the last movie that we watched where they were talking about, was it the SpiderMan movie where they made the quote about how you're referencing your entire decision of time travel based on Back to the Future?
Yeah.
Or they make that quote.
Yeah.
That whole scene played out.
Like the rules.
Yes. That whole thing played out in my mind reading this. Because we always think of this concept of if we were to go back in time, we can't interact with our true self, or we can't interact with our past self. We can't gamble on sports events, and stuff like that, so that we've changed the future. But in this block theory, eternalism theory, if I were to go back in time to the past, I cannot change the future because the future dictates that I was going to travel to the past anyway. And then I can't change that past because that past is somebody else's future. And I can't change somebody's future because it hasn't been written yet.
And that would completely obliterate the concept of free will.
Absolutely.
Now we get into Calvinism.
Yes, we do.
Oh my goodness.
So.
Wow.
I told you this was going to take a hard turn. But yeah, I mean, so in recap.
Or did it already happen?
Maybe, yeah. I don't need to recap because it's already happening.
It's still happening.
Yeah, it's happening right now, and it's still happening. Like, it gave, I wish I could have pulled up the picture. It gave a picture in four tiers, and it was just a picture of somebody walking their dog. Like, the first one was they stepped out into the road. The second one was they turned right, and all the way up. And it said in linear time, we would consider looking at that, read that top to bottom sequential, this is what happened. But in block theory, all four lines are happening at the same time. So as I make this hand motion, I'm still down here too. Oh look, it's all happening at the same time. And that's not even...
For what purpose?
For what purpose, yeah. There was nothing that I read that could tell me kind of why.
Just because.
Just because. It's just like, again, it's just where they come up, some people just sit and have too much time on their hands. No. It's interesting. It's an interesting theory. And if it wasn't for all of the points Leah made, as far as, your sins not being forgiven, about things being finished, when Christ died on the cross, he said it is finished. All of that, what?
Nick said, Golston is going to have to turn the TARDIS into a paradox machine to make this work. For real. Oh my gosh.
I forgot what I was saying.
Oh, sorry.
No,
well, it doesn't matter. It's going to come back around.
It'll
come back around.
It's one of those things. Okay, if it wasn't for all that, I mean, it almost would explain 100% the story. The woman saw the future. They saw the past. one other thing I didn't touch on, which kind of goes completely outside of this, is there are people that think there are parallel universes and that there are alternate realities. And those alternate realities, again, are kind of like in the block universe happening concurrent with our own. Where, I mean, she may have been seeing something from an alternative universe or whatever, you know, and that's a big theory that a lot of people out there believe that's what we're seeing when we see dead people, is that we're actually seeing into an alternate reality.
Alternate reality?
Parallel universe, whatever terminology you want to use there, different dimension.
I always explain it as just another layer of current reality.
Another layer of current reality.
Yeah.
What do
You know,
mean?
kind of how I explain I can see things, where you have
All right.
what you see
Mm-hmm.
with your own physical eyes, and then there's that vinyl or that clear plastic page that you put on top of that adds just another level or another dimension to the full picture.
So, taking away our two, let's play for a second. Taking away the theories that we've laid out there, based on the story.
Nick said he's heard of that too, but the parallel universes are layered on top of each other, and the ghost stuff bleeds through from another.
Yeah. Oh, so based on the story here, professional opinion, as professional as we are, what would you say happened here?
What do you mean?
In this story, the lady sees three shadow figures that run out of the room, and then the house is labeled as haunted. And then years down after grandma has passed, these three people walk into the room, see what appears to be grandma sitting in the chair, and then they three leave the room like those shadow figures did. What's happening in this home?
Well, if it's a haunted home, I mean, there's different scenarios. If it's a haunted home, it can be, we've had transient spirits that come through, so maybe during that time she was there's three that came through, and then on down the road there's, you know, after grandma's gone, then, you know, it's something
Right.
taking on that energy, so to speak.
Well, I just think it's interesting how we and I don't know if it's intentional on the storytellers, but we don't get a clear description of the three figures. It's
Right.
three shadows.
Right.
But we
Could be
clearly
anything.
see grandma.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that in itself, if we just went by that only, then, I mean, it could be like if grandma's sat in that chair for a number of years and that's her sitting spot forever, I mean, then it can be a residual energy of her. Could be.
Right.
It doesn't say that it's interactive at all, right?
No. It
Okay.
just says it appears to be watching television.
Oh, well, which I would assume would be a residual type
Right.
scenario.
And could be a strong enough residual that it actually, let's assume grandma watched Jeopardy every night. You know, it's probably going to be a stronger appearance than, say, three people walking in and out of her room.
Right.
So who's to say that the three shadows were not a residual? Because there's probably one way to come in that living room and one way to leave. I don't know. It's really, really interesting.
But I mean, and not saying that everything's demonic either, but also, you know, the demonic can mimic. I know we were talking about mimics.
Mm-hmm.
Can mimic
That's why I went down
things
that road.
that appear familiar to allow it to stay there. And
They see grandma sitting in her chair, they're less likely to be like, oh, we need to get rid of it. It's grandma's here.
right.
Let's not run grandma.
Yeah, let's leave it here. It's just comforting because I know it's so and so.
Right.
we've, dealt with many instances, but just based on what this story states alone, it sounds very residual. Nick says the first part is 3 shadows, but then it's super clear that it's the grandma sitting, ?
Yes.
Yeah. So, so first it's vague shadows, then a definitive person. Yes. So to me, it sounds very residual.
So, I've been sitting here. I didn't give a response right off the bat, but what Nick said before about the parallel universes being stacked on top of one another, it reminds me, and I'm sorry, of an old TV show on Nickelodeon years ago called Are You Afraid of the Dark? And they did an episode where these kids were messing around in some like magic shop, and one of them would put these glasses on, and every time they would put these glasses on, they would see a woman with a shroud over her face motion them to come on. And they go through the whole episode and they try to do this banishing ceremony to try to get rid of the woman, and they end up messing the spell up. Long story short, whenever the girl was putting the glasses on, she was seeing the other dimension that was stacked on top of ours, and the woman that she was seeing was actually trying to cast them out because to her, they were the ghosts.
Nick loved that show. I've never seen that show.
Oh, wow. Even for a kid's show, it was really, really good.
I was watching Wishbone and...
Reading Rainbow?
And Reading Rainbow, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and Degrassi High before it became weird. No, it was like the original Degrassi High. Before it became weird.
Actually, on a hard drive, I had the entire first season of Are You Afraid of the Dark. I should let you watch it. Even as an adult, they're cool stories.
Nick, Wishbone was my jam too. He got to experience so many different stories.
Wishbone was the dog, right?
Yes.
Okay, I never watched Wishbone. I was too busy watching
That's
Are You Afraid of the
because
Dark.
you don't like books.
I love books. I like to read.
Whatever.
I like to read.
I stayed in a library growing up.
We need an air freshener that smells like a library.
Could you imagine?
That would be heavenly for you.
Old books.
Old books.
I love that.
All right. That is all I have as far as the subject matter goes. If anybody wants to chime in or anybody's got any questions, I know it's... I keep saying I know it's a little out there, but I think everything I talk about is a little out there.
Jennifer said, Are You Afraid of the Dark? Used to scare the crap out of her. Nick says, if you want an interesting parallel universe style movie, I recommend Coherence. What's that on? I'm sure you can stream it, but...
Does that sound familiar?
Is it on like Netflix or Prime?
It's from 2013.
It just sounds familiar because most of the time I'm yelling at you going, are you coherent? Jennifer loved Wishbone too.
I don't recognize any of the actors in it, so I don't know. Pluto TV has it.
Oh, nice. We can watch that. Wishbone was awesome.
I guess I need to watch some episodes of Wishbone.
Oh my gosh, it's the best.
So what was the concept behind that? He goes into like the books and lives out the stories or whatever?
Yeah, he would become characters. She laughed at my comment about you being coherent.
I'm coherent sometimes. What'd you say? Oh, but no, that is all I have on that.
It's quiet out there now.
I know. I would check the radar, but it's on my phone. The worst part, according to what I saw earlier, is we're supposed to get the worst at 9 o'clock.
It's raining.
Yeah, it is.
Let's see.
Those of you that are local, are you seeing anything right now storm-wise?
I'm just going to look at this radar dude and see where he's showing.
We've moved from the paranormal to now the weather reporting. So bear with us. Excuse me.
He's still talking about Mississippi.
Yeah, there was something moving. I think, was it Columbus, Alabama?
It's Columbus somewhere. Nick
Yes.
says, had some rain earlier and was pretty hard for a few minutes. Jennifer says, hope the weather stays good for y'all. It's creating a glare.
Oh,
Move it
can't
forward
see
a
it.
little.
I'll move it
A
forward.
little. No, I mean, push the screen down. Oh, brother. Never mind.
Okay, sorry.
Just forget it.
It's still coming.
Hope the weather stays good for y'all. It's so windy in Gatlinburg where we're at.
Gatlinburg? What are you doing in Gatlinburg?
My son's in, where's he at?
North Carolina?
North Carolina. On a
forgot.
youth trip.
Yeah, North Carolina, there's nothing hitting North Carolina right now. Everything is going up through Tennessee up into Virginia.
Oh, good.
Either way.
I wish I had some New Year's, yo.
You wish you had some what?
I needed a vacation from Amazon, so this is it.
Well, this is mine currently now, too. I haven't been back in since Christmas Eve. So, I go back the 6th.
Somebody's shooting fireworks?
Yep.
Are you kidding me?
Well, last
I don't
night-
know if the microphone's picking that up or not, but somebody's out there shooting fireworks.
So, a couple of my friends showed me, posted videos or sent them over Messenger.
Do they know you're friends with them?
Who? The people that sent me videos?
No, you said a couple of my friends.
Couple of
I'm
my
like, do they know y'all are friends?
No, we've got a group. I still have a group chat with all the leaders from day shift when I used to be on there, Brad and all them. And one of the PAs lives out in like the Harrison Highway 58 area, and they posted videos of it was people shooting guns at New Year's,
Okay.
like gunfire.
That stuff's, I mean, ammo's expensive. Why?
Well, I wouldn't doubt that probably in the mix of all the fireworks we were hearing, there was probably some capping going on. And yeah, ammunition is expensive.
Capping? Quit trying to sound like you're ghetto or something.
Well, I mean, it reminds me of my youth in Compton. Whenever I used to,
Ringo.
between that and this ambulance.
You can't even get out of your neighborhood.
Compton.
Jennifer said, I worked the day before Christmas Eve and haven't been back since. She said, wow, people are insane. Yeah, we know.
We work at Amazon.
Everybody knows. I work at a psychiatrist's office.
We'll send them to you. Anywho.
They are still shooting them.
They are.
What's some good storm snacks?
Is it that time? Is it snack time? Well, I guess we're going to sign off then if we're going to go for snack time.
It's like, oh, I've already ran into people from work in Gatlinburg. Oh, no.
You just can't get it. So, funny story.
Oh, no. Of all random remote places in the universe. She said moonshine.
Of course. I took Leah to this little place. Where was it? I can't even remember where it was located now.
It had the town had a weird name. Is it Royal? No. We talked about it on here.
Right. Because we went up there with the intention of trying to see if we could do some, like, ghost pictures or whatnot, but they wouldn't allow photography in the place. I can't even remember the name of it now. I can't remember. Something Crest.
It sounds like
It sounds like Falcon Crest, but it's not.
It sounds like an old folks home. I think it's Falcon something, but I added Crest because of the show.
It is Falcon Rest. It's in
Falcon Rest.
It's in McMinnville.
It sounds like an old folks home, but it's not. She said it's sad she knew what you were going to say before you started it.
So we go to this place, and we get there, and it's not that far away. Like I said, it's in McMinnville. We walk in the door.
But it's remote.
Yeah,
Like,
it's in this little bitty section of town. Like when you get there, you don't even see the mansion from the road because of the bushes. And we walk into the gift shop / information area, and I just hear Gulston. And I turn around, and over in the back corner is one of the girls that we used to work with on day shift, Robin Massengale, and her husband were up there, and it was us and them
That's
that
it.
went on the tour.
On the whole property.
It was just like, what is the chances that I would see somebody from Amazon at this place and we were the only people on the tour? I pray nothing like that happens to you. I wasn't that bad, but it was just weird. It was just completely
of all
weird.
places. Oh my goodness.
Well, I hope everyone had a good Christmas. Everyone has a good 2022. Again, I know I already posted a video on this, but I do apologize for us not actually coming on live 1st of December. But between my job and Leah's job, we just didn't have time.
No.
And I apologize for that. Maybe we'll do 2 lives in a month sometime this year to make up for it.
And we're trying to... Jennifer said it was Pete and Lindsay I saw.
The Karmaskis.
We're trying to upgrade, I guess, our little show here. We've gotten some new equipment, and to be quite honest, I have just been relaxing during my time off, and I have not set anything up, and Mike has not set up any of his stuff that he got.
Yeah, I got a new camera and stuff, so definitely want to try to play with that.
Yeah, so we will try this. Our New Year's resolution, because everybody loves those.
Of course.
We are going to try to do better this year as far as being more of a presence and taking you on places that we go, and
Leah's going to do some topics.
You know, baby steps. Not promising any of that, but
Alrighty, well, we will go ahead and sign off. It's almost 9 o'clock, so we got to get down to the storm shelter before it hits.
for all these fireworks.
And possible gunshots. Get out here before the 423 shows up.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway,
Let's
all right.
stop.
So we'll see everybody in February.
Yeah.
If anything happens between now and then, we will hop on. Anybody needs to get a hold of us, check out our number, go to our YouTube page. You can message us on Facebook. You can message us at the phone number. Check us out. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Get your friends to join us.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.